Alright, Ancestral Egg Bay, this is our lesson on libation. Libation is a very, very ancient practice in Africa. We'll be teaching it more so from the Yoruba context, but actually, it's older in Yoruba culture. There's Kemetic documentation that talks about libation and its many uses. Even in African culture now, in Pan-African culture, you see libation in Kwanzaa. There's libation. There's also different sorts of libations. You can use alcohol, you can use beer, wine, a number of different types. Libation is actually active pouring, and you can be pouring in water to the earth. You can be pouring alcohol to a shrine. You can be pouring to a plant. The whole thing, and you make an offering which invokes spirit. Generally, as priest is doing it, an elder of a family or a community elder. Very rarely see young folk doing libation, unless it's a specific type of libation that calls for energy. So sometimes you might see something like that, maybe in the Kwanzaa ceremony, which is very big and involving the youth and the passing on tribal tradition. So sometimes you use water, sometimes you use alcohol. Water is more for healing. We're doing libations for purifications, for protection, that kind of stuff. Alcohol, sometimes called oti in the Yoruba, is more for getting it forces to do something. And alcohol can be poured or it can be sprayed. We're not, your mouth. We're not really get a lot into that. You do that later, and that's definitely more of a shrine work type of thing. This is to introduce the whole basic concept of libation and its cultural space, and give you some specifics on how to practice it. So when we talk about practicing, we're talking about actually doing it at home. The goal is for people to go to their ancestral shrine or altar and be able to do your basic libation, which is normally an omitutu, or if it's called for, particularly on an ancestral altar, gin, or what's the drink your father likes again? Christian Brothers. Well, the particular OT alcohol that works in your family situation. My dad had his favorite, and so I know I have it on the side. So we all kind of develop that rhythm over time, that practice. So this is about helping you build your libation practice. So the rule of thumb is the waters for cooling, healing, creating, reconciling. Liqueurs, hard liquors, are more for igniting, performing strong purification, strong works. And wine and beer is more like camaraderie. So when I was there was a certain time I was doing a lot of martial arts with a certain group, and we would do plum wine. Do the plum wine and the tobacco for the warriors who had passed before. So that's a general thing. Okay, I'm not going to get a lot into Yoruba pronunciation because I'm not good with it. I'm not an expert in it. I put a packet that covers that. Generally, a lot of the phonetic Yoruba, well, no, it's not. It does sound like Spanish on a level, but Yoruba is tonal. So actually, you have, the same word pronounced ooh, oh, ooh, with 3 medium tones, and then experts may have more. Similar to like Chinese, they have the 4 lus or 5 lus with lu, and each one's a different word. Same thing for Yoruba. Mm-hmm. And you see it when you start looking at certain words. One word means owner, another word means child of. You start to see that, and in general, when you see documents and you see Yoruba words, if it doesn't have the phonetics, you really don't know how to say it. So you'll have the little dots under the O, the little squiggles over the E, all those things to a Yoruba speaker is telling them what the intonation is. And that is actually helping you know what the word really means. I try in my packets to put those in, but a lot of times, because I'm not a natural Yoruba speaker, I miss it. And I'll look and go, oh, okay. So that's just kind of a disclaimer. Doing the best we can with the understanding of Yoruba that I have, but I'm definitely nowhere near even a speaker or beginning at best. Okay, so libation structure. This is the actual pouring, the first thing, and this is libation structure as we're talking about in the Yoruba-based model. There's the actual pouring, offering alcohol, whatever, and then there's a response. It's a call and response. So you say, what do we say? Like, Omi Tutu, Ana Tutu, Ile Tutu. That's cool water. That's what we're saying, and the people are saying Ashe. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we have the Mojibas. The Mojibas are salutations and praises too. So our Mojibas speak to those who've passed. Well, no, first they speak to the Creator and the spiritual hierarchy. They start with the Creator, the Imole in heaven, the Eoloshas, Babaloshas, which are the high priests and priestesses, and priests. Important. We get the feminine first. And so that's just a hierarchy, all the way down to mothers, fathers, and the divine kings who are here, Oluos, and then priestly lineage if you have one. So I put it in for my students because maybe not at this level, but by the end of this course and definitely into the next semester, most of my students will at that point receive an ancestral shrine, or may even go on to Agungun. So by that time they'll be joining my priestly lineage. So I put it in for them because that's pretty much the priestly lineage which I teach out of as far as this ancestral course, my Agungun priestly lineage. However, your personal practice, because for you, for example, will include other lineages that you're initiated with through me. See what I'm saying? So you'll have you'll have other houses, be Ile houses, Manunzas. As you build your initiations, you greet all those priests from all those different groups because they will help you. Mm-hmm. This is the beginning. Then after you've gotten everybody together, you've done the opening libation, then you make your petition. Then you start asking. That's where you see the Kosa Yaku, keeping away death, keep away sickness. That's the structure. That's really the basic structure. It's a basic 3-part thing. And it's something you want to practice because it gets you in the practice of orchestrating and organizing your spiritual force, your team. Sometimes I say your court, and which is the group of entities that support and work with you. So in libation, water is sacred, and there's a whole lesson we teach in the ashram about water, the spirit of water, the memory of water, how water can take on the energy of love, how the crystal structure of water changes based on the energy you put into it. So don't think of water as just water. Water is pure consciousness. Water has its own, it can be as powerful as you make it, for positive or negative. So the beginning is only tutu, tutu, ile tutu, ono tutu, tutu elero, tutu egungun, tutu egun. So the tutu aloroye, for example, is just the SU. Whatever SU you have would be the SU you call. Which one would be like Lekmo? Well, we haven't. I mean, that would be for you, but different people have different SUs. So Alroye is a very common one. He's the owner of the corners, but there are a lot of different SUs. And as people go through this practice, an SU is one of the forces. Pretty early, you find out who your SU is. You get an SU, and that's who you would be actually calling your SU in this libation. So what I put in is just a SU because I have a few. And most priests will, over time, you acquire one when you receive your hand at Ifa. You probably got one with your first major Orisha shrine. If you're a Gungun, you may get another SU for working, and it could be Gedi Nimbo, Lupupa. There's a couple ones just for Egun work. There's a couple that work specifically with different Orisha, depending who your Orisha head is. So over time, you might have 3 or 4 Eshus. If you're an Egun priest, you're probably going to be working with this invocation. You'd be calling an Egungun or Egun Eshu. But this is for people, everybody. You don't have to be an Egun priest to do this practice, and therefore you may use whatever Eshu you have in that space. Okay, so that's the opening libation. Now the structure of the praise. Obviously, we start with the highest, the Creator. Now, for us, when we talk about working with the Creator, I do, and we do, Odamari, Zumbi, Ama, Yetnatur, and Ngai. So, why? Very short. Obviously, Odamari is the Yoruba Creator. And so this is a Yoruba structured type of libation. Second is Zumbi. So, Zumbi is the Creator, also known as Zaire. The name for Zaire is the same. Nsambi is another name. They all relate to the Congo Creator. And so that name, Nsambi, Zaire, Zumbi, those 3 names are interchangeable for the Creator from the Congo. So you got like the West African, then you kind of have the Central African. Ngai is the Creator in the Maasai Kikuyu people. So that's like East Africa. And there's a title like Nganga, which it's like the double shiny black Ing. So we'll talk about the names of the creators. It's a matter of who you have a relationship with. So I have a relationship from the Congo and most of my students will. So a lot of people who came to America, depending who you talk to, have Congo ancestry off the rip. And a lot of people have West African ancestry off the rip. So basically, Odamari, Nzumbi, or any of those West African, Central African creators, they both have multiple names. These are the names we choose to use. Are the ones that I recommend you stay with, because most of us are not purely Yoruba. So therefore, we're not purely going to be Odamari.
So would you say that it would be better to do like a ancestral divination so you can kind of get a better idea of where?
Eventually, people get to the ancestral divination, and then you start knowing your particular people. This lesson, this libation, is taught as a general lesson. Mm-hmm. And as a general lesson for African Americans, their major ethnic groups are West African and Congo. Mm-hmm. With Europe being a dominant group, and the Congo is a whole bunch of groups. So, we start with these 2. As a matter of fact, Ama's in there because Ama is also Amen. Mm-hmm. Ama is a Dogon, so there's another branch of our practice, more so in the ashram that deal with the Dogon. And so because I practice with that energy, I give respect to that energy as Ama, Amen. So as not to confuse the Christians, I don't use the Amen as much as Ama, but it really is Ama, Amen. And so that said, and that those 4 corners is kind of like West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, North Africa. Me, myself, we really don't do a whole lot of Zulu stuff. So this is where our Pan-Africanism is at this point as far as how we start our mochi bars. It could be cool to add a Zulu piece, but for it to be authentic, there should be a sense of connection. I have godchildren who've lived in South Africa, and they speak a little Zulu. They've done work out there. They may add it, and it may be authentic for them. But though I've visited South Africa, I'm going to take that back, and I have but I don't feel that connection. So I don't teach it like that. And I think most African Americans don't really have big South African connection. So I don't really bring that to them like that in this practice. Anyway, that's how we roll.
And the sad part, when you think South Africa, you just always think white people because they kind of like so dominant.
They redefined South Africa themselves. Yeah, that's kind of how it gets out. So we go down to the dwellers of heaven. Aruma, Leighton, Egbe. Arun, you'll see a lot. That means heaven. So we'll just talk about the Iba, Ibaja, Ibase, Mojiba, and Kinka Mashe or Kinika Mise. So Mojiba generally is I salute. Moi. I think the M is moi. Iba, of course, means to give. Okay. Giving. And then when you say Iba, it's sort of a solemnness. I've seen it signalized Ibashe or Iva Ashe, which is to give Ashe. And this, as a side note, you see when people will say, like one of my elders, like Baba Ashangi, Ibashe, which I give praise, I give Ashe to him because he's passed. So you see that as a practice frequently when they mention a dead elder or one who's passed, people will Ibashe. And that is an extension of this Mojiba and giving praise practice. So then the dwellers of heaven, previous classes, the beings in heaven are the beings in heaven. They're not necessarily your ancestors. Doesn't matter. If you was in heaven, you probably deserve respect. You could be some kind of something that deserves respect. Everybody in heaven is there for a reason. They're higher beings. We don't want to. There's a concept known as Egbe, which are the spiritual counterparts or spiritual homies. They're in heaven, and generally this phrase is to them. But without explaining who it is, let's just say that there are other pieces that are associated with you in heaven that you do give respect to. They will help you as you move forward in life. That's another lesson later on the road. Obviously, Bobo Orisha. So Orishas could be understood as angelic beings. Some people understand them as the highly evolved, ascended ancestral spirits. And so we praise them, and they take on roles. They work like deputies for the Creator, and at the same time, since they have some sort of personal consciousness, we give them as a collective a thumbs up. Then we go through Iba, Bobo, Ialosas, Babalosa, Yarun. Those are, of course, the priests and priestesses in heaven, because they're considered of a higher caliber, and when you die as a priest versus you die as a quote-unquote commoner, because of the initiations and stuff that were done, types of thing. Then we get to things like Iba Arun, Osopa, that's the sun and the moon. Obviously, the sun has a special place in a lot of African spirituality. The moon also, and lots of spirituality around the world, and we'll talk about that. Then you have pretty much what you call the cardinal points. You got the 4 stations of the sun: sunrise, sunset, high noon, midnight. You have the east, the west, the north, south. Another 4, boom. And then another 4 would be the elements: water, fire, earth, air. And we give praise to all those. Aye, Omi, Ine, Efe. Water. What else? Baba, Iba, Gungun, the ascended ancestors as a collective. Okay, Iba, Arunu, Iba, Bato. So, the ancestors we've lost. Important, because this is again a diasporic piece. So we understand that on the other side, in the Atlantic, and there's a piece of this in this lesson, just about them. There are monuments to those who have passed, and you see one of them in the back of the lesson. Important to the experience. Another piece, Arun Ibat Mi Orisanga. That's giving praises to the witches. They, in general, they represent female power, and we respect that. And good, bad, there's issues depending on what side of the gender war you on, depending on what you did or you didn't do. Oceanga is like one of the head witches, and she takes the praise for her crew. Now, this part here is very diasporic, so it's not Yoruba. This part here for my students is we give praise to this land, this good land, Turtle Island. Yokshi, Wake, Haki. Okay, so it's Lenape. So again, I have a relationship with the Lenape spirits, which are the spirits here, and it's some things built over time. So when I do it, and I recommend, since most of my students are here, that they do it, give that respect. Now, you may not need Lenape. If you have your own native tongue that you can figure it out in, then you use your native tongue. I'm actually Chippewa Cherokee as the nation that I'm in, but spiritually I have a connection to the Lenape, so therefore I go with that senior, because that's the spirit that came to me. And it happened during the time when I was working with a couple of my martial students who happened to be big into their native identity, and we were working together, and just happened that wind spirit came down, and so from there on Lenape got big respect from me, because that spirit is real in my experience and that group of students. So the second piece is, so the Iba is the Yoruba. Manu tuwa ku ye heke mku meshi hekwe. Okay, that's so I praise the spirits of the sky and the land. That's the Lenape piece. Okay. We'll get into it. There's a practice of working with the spirits wherever you come to a new land. But, understanding that African Americans as a people, we're born here. So we have a certain connection to this land anyway. And many of us have native blood mixed in. But still, it is good to explicitly give that praise. And if you can do it in the native blood, great. Not saying that's the only one. I mean, English will work. You could do it in Yoruba, but it would seem kind of giving praise to America or Turtle Island in Yoruba just never resonated with me. Okay, and now we get into like the representatives. Representatives are representative people. So Iba Oluwo is homage to the chief title holders of divine kings. Again, in the Pan-African model, when we say divine kings, we're including the Asante Hini, the Ghana, the Ashanti people. We're including all the